The simplest and most straightforward way to organize your photos is to create albums. The way you create an album is you go to File, New Album, or Command N for a shortcut. Now if you do that you're going to get an empty album and then you could put photos in it. But you could also select photos. So I'm going to select this first one here and then you could select a whole range. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and select another photo. So I selected this entire range. See it says 34 photos selected. Now when I say File, New Album, it says New Album with Selection 34 photos. So let's do that and it's going to create a new album. You can see here the name is selected in the left sidebar so I can name it something. So now I've got this album here and it tells me there's a date range, 34 photos, and I've got the name here at the top but also the name here. I can click in either place to change it. So you can always go back and change the name. And what I have are 34 photos in here, but I haven't removed those photos from anywhere. If I go to my photos view here, they're still there. It's important to realize that albums are basically these groupings of photos, any photos you want to put in there, but it's not actually moving anything around. Your photos are still there, one each, in your photo library in chronological order. They're just there. An album is kind of like creating a playlist if you've created a playlist in iTunes before. You're not duplicating those songs. You're just creating an order in which they appear. The same thing with albums. You're not duplicating these photos. You're just creating a special location where you could view just those photos even though the photo is the same as the one when you view it in this library. It's like two different views. Here's a view of all of your photos and here's a view that just shows you the photos you've selected for this one album. Now even though we're looking at this view of this album here, I still can go over to the Showing selector here and show only certain ones in this album. But here I'm going to show all the photos in the album. I could also add new photos to this. The simple way to do it is to go back to Photos and if you find a photo that you want to add, you select it and then you would drag it right into the album here in the sidebar. So now I can see that that one has been added. Your albums will appear under My Albums here and you can reveal that and hide that. And once you have multiple ones in here you can actually drag and drop them to create an order to them. And you can create as many albums as you want. Photos can appear in as many albums as you want. So for instance I could create a album called Stained Glass Windows and put this photo in there but it would still be in this Paris album. It would be in both. It could be in as many as I want. So you can use this to organize your photos in whole sorts of variety of ways. You can do it per event, per trip, for special photos. If you take lots of photos of flowers or waterfalls or whatever, you can create albums for that. You can create as many or as few albums as you want. Now when you click on My Albums here you're going to get a view that shows you all of your albums. We just have the one here for now but you can see it's 35 photos and that's what it's called. And when you move your cursor over it you can kind of flip through the photos. It gives you a reminder of what photos are in this album. Another thing you could do with albums is you can sort the photos in them unlike in the other views. So you can go to View, Sort, Title, oldest first or newest first. So you can do that. There's nothing in fact to prevent you from creating an album with all your photos and have call it everything and then you can use those sort options in there. Another important thing to realize about albums is since they are not your entire library, they're just kind of this playlist of photos, you don't delete photos here. You remove them from the album. So here's this photo here. I'm going to go and delete it. I can do that with the delete key on the keyboard but also under Image it says remove one photo from album and the shortcut's the delete key. So I'm going to remove that and it's gone from the album but it's not gone from my library. And if I look at through the library I'll find it. There it is. So albums themselves, when you remove something from it, it's still in your library. It's just no longer in your album. Now if I go to Image here and I look for the same menu item, instead of removing, it says delete. So when I'm looking at the photos list here and I hit the delete key, I'm deleting the photo from my library. When I'm looking at an album, I'm simply removing it from the album, which is far less serious. You're just removing it from that playlist of photos and it's still in your library.